Welcome, everyone, to another episode of TPK.TALKS. I'm Juan Lopez, Juan voice of many, and I'm interviewing here today, well...
My name is Bryan Harrison, B. Danger Harrison, B. Rye in the chats, as I like to say, Raniek, if you know how to spell it, and many other things.
One of our most beloved TPK community members.
Beloved, wow.
Beloved, yes.
Most beloved? That's
one of the most beloved. Okay. Although, maybe not those that play at your table all the time. Or I should say, those that have really invested characters that they love.
Sure.
And that they put like a lot of time and thought into just to see them get, and I'm just speaking from personal experience here, get them dragged away by a raptor while you're just trying to enjoy a meal at a campfire. And...
Oh, yeah.
I
do recall your character hearing something in the underbrush being like, what's that? And everyone else being like, it's probably nothing. And then everyone else is like talking, eating around the campfire. And then there's just screams, as in a very Jurassic Park-esque scene. Your character just gets on their back and then just dragged away into the ruins. And everyone is just, it's in the dark. No one knows where you are. And they're just like, and all they hear is the screams. And, you know, and again, very Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park-esque. It's just your torso going up and down, screaming behind the edge of the ruins. That's all they see as just the blood just starts spraying out. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. That was actually my first time playing with you. Yeah.
I'm glad I made an impression.
I named that character the Chosen One.
Yeah.
I thought that character was going to go far.
He made it a little ways.
I mean, go far from the adventuring party, dragged away into the night forest. But yes, actually, that's probably a great place to start with our interview. So you've been playing D&D since high school.
Yes, I have.
Have you always been a player/dungeon master that has been on that knife's edge, that has really made things like, I might die today and that's okay, or these players might die today and that's okay? Or did that change?
I feel like it had to have changed. I mean, who I am today is not the same person I was when I started playing in the late 90s. Just to date myself a little bit. But I always felt that story was paramount in what was being told at the table, people's individual characters, what they bring to it. And I think in those early days, like a lot of new DMs, I may have given a little too much, maybe thrown a few artifacts around some characters in those early days because it was cool. And so maybe there was some, you know what, in retrospect, there was some knife edge moments in those. Because the things that I gave them were powerful, but also dangerous to themselves.
Oh. Could you give an example of one?
Sure. In the Forgotten Realms, Talos, god of storms and thunder and destruction, right? I had given the player this god-touched staff that I called the Staff of Destruction.
Oh, okay.
Which was, it was like a weird vibrating noodle when you were trying to wield it. It was really hard to hit anything, right? But when you did hit, it hit with a concussive force, right? And it was like, I had this noodly wizard with like 8 whole hit points wielding this thing. And half the time, like, he would make connection, and it would take the ogre out, but then he would also be blown back and like rolling around in the bushes, unconscious, because this thing was just suffused with power, right? Then eventually it did meet its terrible end because I had written into it, much like a Staff of the Magi, should it be broken, like a small, self-contained warhead of an explosion went off.
Were there any people harmed in the making of that explosion?
Of course, everyone was harmed in this explosion.
Maybe they isolated it. I don't know, but
yeah, and it happened. in the sewer systems of this town in Karatur, the orient of the Forgotten Realms, and just like a whole section of the city just kind of went up and then down very rapidly, taking out a whole city block, basically.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Good times.
Did the players at least survive?
They actually did. A lot of people around them did not survive, but in this case, the players survived.
The Staff of Destruction was destroyed, but not the players' hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that was one of those knife edge moments where it's like, I can't believe you did it. You got in just under the threshold of instant death, but that's how the dice fell.
So when you were talking about, D&D and the story of it all, as a DM, I think that a lot of people, especially in the TPK community, would say that you are, of course, an experienced DM, but almost a master of your craft, or at the very least, extremely proficient. If you don't want the master title thrown around, extremely proficient at your craft as a dungeon master. What would be some tips that you might be able to give fledgling dungeon masters out there, or maybe even experienced dungeon masters that maybe could use some advice from someone as experienced as yourself, as in terms of creating a compelling story hook, something to get players at the table and salivating before the session even began?
Well, I mean, we have run a handful at this point. D&D Dungeon Master workshops. That topic is very broad and would cover many interviews, probably, maybe even a whole course of lessons. But specifically, if we want to talk about the character hook, this is something that I think I talked with you in one of our very first DM workshop.
Yeah.
You ought to understand what it is that your characters are motivated by. And maybe as a DM, you don't know that. So a hook usually involves a few parts. And I'm not going to remember all of them right now, but a memorable quest giver. Right? And maybe it's an event in the world that's giving the quest. Maybe there's a nigh apocalyptic event on the horizon, a prophecy. But that all leads into, why do the characters care? Are they motivated by money? Are they motivated because they have people that they care about whose lives might be impacted? Are they, even if they are otherwise outwardly a self-centered and, or dare we say, evil character, they still live in this world and they want that world to continue so that they continue to profit and or survive and or benefit in whatever way they feel is their own moral code. And so the ending of that world, if we're going on that level of dramatic, will still impact them. But it really requires you to understand, like, what are their inner motivations? And they could be shallow. It could be just gold. And that's okay. And I think, the earlier editions of D&D, like, gold and XP were almost interchangeable. It's like, but yeah, so you'd go into a dungeon and as much gold as you were collecting, like once you hit certain benchmarks, like you were getting XP for the amount of loot that you were able to drag out of that place.
Very cool. Oh, I had no idea. Maybe, what else from those older editions would you say were interesting mechanics that? I mean,
one of the things that I think takes from older editions that I think people should still keep in mind now is just that being flexible and making up your own rules.
Okay.
Being a little bit loose about it.
Homebrewing.
I think everything involves some aspect of homebrewing because it's play.
Yeah.
When we play this game that involves a shared set of rules and logic and, story, right? The dice are a big part of that. They are, I think Brennan Lee Mulligan hit it off on an interview recently where it's like, the dice are one of your co-authors, and possibly one of the most influential co-authors in this collective story that we have. And so props to that metaphor because it's so true.
I haven't heard that before. Oh,
yeah,
it's so true though. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're having these moments in this old school game, like, remember that we're here to play. Sometimes you got to make it up, but I think what needs to be taken with that is adjudication, right? if you're going to make a call, the DMs also back in the day, even before my time, were judges, right? There was Judges Guild, right? You are essentially the referee of what's happening in the world. Mm-hmm. Your players have to trust you that when you make a call, that you're doing it for a reason, and hopefully you're being consistent. I mean, you really should try for consistency. And if you're going to change it or look it up later, rather than slow down the game, pause, mm-hmm. right? And be like, this is how we're ruling it now. We're moving forward. If we want to talk about it later, let's not rules lawyer and take everyone's time. We'll talk about it off the table, right? There's plenty of time. No, in my adult life, maybe not so much anymore. But at the time, at some point, it was, rules lawyering takes time. It takes energy. And it takes a degree of maturity mm-hmm. to be able to say, this is my call. You have to trust me as my players. Even if you're not happy about the outcome, let's talk about it later. Let's keep going with the story, because all of us together are here to have fun. Right? It's not any one person's show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even my show as the DM.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, that's wonderful stuff. So again, kind of focused on the DMing aspect right now. What about some tools that you incorporate? Because I know that as a DM, you can incorporate maps and figures and all kinds of lighting and stuff like that. These are all options. What are some tools that maybe you have incorporated or like to incorporate regularly that help you, and how do they help you?
I mean, there's a lot of things I can do without. I love playing with terrain. If I have time to set up elaborate sessions, I like being able to draw. I have an old Chessex vinyl map, like with a grid on it, that I would, if I have time, I'll draw out like settings, shipyards, docks, and dungeons, because that entertains me. But even if I don't have any of that, and I just are doing pure theater of the mind and everything else, the most important thing for me is having some kind of wet erase, dry erase board. Right?
Oh, okay.
I am a visual person in terms of memory.
I'd say many people are.
Many people are, but everyone has their own way of learning.
Of course, yes, of course.
But for me, especially with names, and I want to keep all of my players involved, having the player's name and their character's name, and then usually I include their class and or species.
Okay.
Usually class is the most important, right? Regardless of what their outward appearance is. That usually will stick more because I have like a visual picture when they describe it. But having that in front of me allows me to remember everyone at the table, and then it's sort of like having a little hourglass, being like, how much time have I given each moment for the player? I'm going to spotlight you right now for this part of the turn. So having that's the number one thing that I have. It's a wet erase board that I can just jot notes down. And it also allows me to quickly track monster hit points, even if I'm just putting tally marks on there. And that's essential. So everything else I can do without. And sometimes for me, that's a scrap of paper. I just find that the wet erase board is flexible and allows me to quickly clear it off and start over.
Yeah, then you're going to be going through scraps like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think, a lot of DMs enjoy using wet erase, maps and boards and stuff like that. It's become really useful, in Dungeons and Dragons. So you mentioned tracking monster, hit points and stuff like that.
Yes.
There's so many monsters in Dungeons and Dragons, and we all know dragons and goblins. There's stuff that most people are familiar with. Could you tell us maybe a monster that people typically wouldn't be familiar with, but you think should be highlighted as a very cool monster that maybe more DMs need to start incorporating into their sessions?
Yeah. I like some of those ones that are just like elements of horror. The Balhanath.
Balhanath? Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
It was in Mordenkainen's Book of Monsters, I believe. And
how do you spell that? Balhanath? I've never heard of that in my life.
You sound it out. It's exactly how it sounds.
It's exactly how it
sounds. So what is it?
Balhanath. B-A-L-H-A-A-N.
Balhanoth.
OTH. Balhanoth.
Balhanoth.
I believe so.
Okay.
Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. Am I getting it exactly right? No. But is it memorable? Hell yes.
Okay, got it.
My first encounter with this creature, I believe, was Chris Perkins' Waffle Crew game that he used to play. And you can look it up. I don't know how much of that's still online. But regardless, it's this creature that has this teleportation ability. It is basically a maw and tentacles and little tiny beady eyes that dwells in crevices. And just like, you'll be like walking along and then just this tentacle comes out and grabs you and drags it back in. And then just starts munching on you. And then when your allies go running to like go be like, oh, I'm gonna go save it just teleports away with that character and goes munches on them in some pocket.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm gonna go eat this guy.
Interdimensional teleportation?
Interdimensional.
Oh my god. So how do you fall? Yeah, it's really hard to
It
follow.
is a really difficult creature to attack. It also, and this is where I'm getting like, how much does it do versus the version that I have played with does? It has the ability to warp people's senses of space around it, much like the hallucinatory terrain spell. Mm-hmm. Like, suddenly you're not sure what you're doing anymore. Like, where there was once a grassy glade is now a precipitous ravine, and you're like, I'm questioning my own sanity, and like, now there's this like weird creature just sort of hanging out in this like jungly, viney terrain, and like I can't even find. Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
So, isn't that horrifying? Have a picture.
So
yeah.
Jeez,
look it up.
Look it up.
If we can cut that thing into the
my
chat.
God.
The Balhanoth.
Balhanoth.
If you wanted a weird one, right?
That fits the bill 100%. So DMs out there, incorporate more Balhanoths.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Your players are going to be...
Yes, and your players have until this moment. Spoilers.
Right.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Don't look up what it can do.
That's badass.
That's scary.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But to your point.
Yes.
Some players love to read through the monster manuals and know every ability in it. And then they're like, when you do something different, they're like, no, that's not what that creature does. It's like, in my game, that is what this creature does. Mm-hmm. And the other way you can do it is like you can reskin anything. Like you have a stat block underneath from whatever creature that's approximately the power level that you want, right? Okay. And then you just describe it as something different, right? Maybe it's just the stat block of an orc, but in this particular case, it's this long-legged, creature with 6 insectoid limbs and this, you can get as creative as you want. I mean, I love the back and forth with my players too. And that is another skill, I think, for DMs, is to ask people to incorporate their creative energy as players, right? It doesn't have to be all of you. Just part of the storytelling, I'll often ask people, I'll be like, and this I picked up from another game called The Between.
The Between? I've never heard of that either.
Well, we can get into others. There's so many other role-playing games that I think make for good inspiration for D&D that you can take things from. But I'm blanking on the curator's name, and I will put it in the show notes if I can remember it. It's just on the edge of my tongue. But he will ask, he'll be like, what tells you, this is what you say, for example, all right, we're in a shipyard. Okay. What tells you that this place is seen better days, right? And then he'll just go around the table, and then each character just gives a little detail that starts to paint a scene, right? And so then we're collaborative storytelling. And I love that because, it's giving everyone a sense of agency to shape the world. And some players are like, I don't know, like the boxes are broken. Great, that's perfect. And then I will embellish on that sometimes. Like if they're really into it, but I want to make them feel like, and not just make them feel like, because they actually have control. Like, yes, the boxes are broken. You can look around you and see, the rot and the splinters, and no one's swept up the stuff in vase. And you can see on the edge right there and get something specific. This is really good. A specific detail will stand out. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, those 6 boxes right there, they're all scraped and broken at about the same height, maybe about 7 inches up above the ground, almost as if something has passed by there again and again and just bumped up against them, scraping along. And that'll immediately get your players to be like, ooh, specific detail. What's going on there? I will investigate that point.
Oh, yeah. I really like that, to give players that sense of agency on how and where they are, that what they see around them. Because usually the dungeon master is painting that scene, at least in my experience, completely. And then the players just go in that painted world. Mm-hmm. But to give players, again, that agency to be like, okay, so what are we seeing? What do you maybe want to see? Mm-hmm. I actually incorporated that into my Tuesday campaign.
You did?
Very briefly. They kind of went into a prison kind of athletic yard kind of thing where there's different sports being played. Mm-hmm. And I asked one of my players that was in there at the time, because of course the party splits, what sport do you see that you want to join in on?
Perfect. Yeah. And it gives them a moment to like paint a scene that is coming from their perspective, and then they feel like they have some ownership in the space.
So, I'm thinking here like basketball or something like that. Maybe some little track and field.
Oh, players will surprise you. What did yours do?
So my player decided, out of all the sports in the athletic yard of the prison to choose from, he saw, oh, wow, I'm going to join in on the Turkish oil wrestling.
Not one you'd expect.
Not one I expected, but we went, again, like you said, you take it, you run with it, you embellish it, you really make that scene alive. And there was a whole Turkish oil wrestling competition that player won.
Amazing. Yeah. So they brought it into existence, and then they had a sense of accomplishment too.
Yeah, tournament champion. Yeah, and that was all their idea to do. Yeah, sense of accomplishment, their idea. It really makes that story feel like it's theirs as well. And I love that. That's a great thing. Huh. So when we're talking about homebrew and reskinning,
yes.
First off, how would you reskin a Balhamon? Balhamon, yeah.
I mean, gosh, it's kind of like an eldritch horror. Mm-hmm. So, what would
be a good way to reskin that?
Oh, well, let's take it, if we're going to go improv-y, let's take it to somewhere unexpected.
Okay.
A Balhamon, so like psychic abilities, terrible tendrils, and all this other stuff.
Okay.
Which is also kind of playing on another D&D trope, is the idea of like sentient plants and things not being what they seem, right? So this creature has the ability to warp space and warp people's minds. Maybe it's something so innocuous as a puppy.
Oh,
right.
Puppy. Yeah.
It is a puppy at the end of an alleyway, and it's going to lure you in with its, innocence.
Everyone wants to go up and pet the puppy.
Yeah, immediately. And, I've also had players who be like, how dare you? How dare you put this adorable creature in front of me and then make it a menace?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it can be bad. You got to know who you're playing with. This is what all DMs really, read the room. See what your players get. It's okay to torture them a little bit, and my tables know that they expect that from me when they're playing.
Oh yeah, that's true. But in all the good ways, though. In all the good ways,
and we're all in on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important. Get consent ahead of time.
So, kind of still on the theme of home brewing. What about hard limits? Because I know that home brewing can become a little dangerous sometimes, especially as a DM. Players come to you like, oh, I have this homebrew idea with this and a homebrew idea with that. And maybe as a DM, you don't know right away what the intentions are. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't know that at level 5, once they hit level 5, that homebrew thing that they got is going to trigger with something. And now they are going to be just like a beast or something that's just going to trivialize a lot of the things that you're trying to do or throw at the party. So what are ways that DMs can maybe prepare for that? Or if they do agree to something homebrew in the beginning that ends up being too wild, how can they rein that back while still making sure that the player doesn't feel like you just took away their toy?
I think frank and honest conversations with the player, not at the table, but off table,
Yeah.
are really important. But I've had this experience multiple times in my DM career, and I don't always have a good solution for it. For example, there was an Unearthed Arcana spell, Ego Whip, right?
Ego.
And they ended up changing it. I think it ended up becoming Tasha's Mind Whip. But the Ego Whip, as it was in Unearthed Arcana, essentially neutralized any spellcaster and made it impossible for them to succeed on a save once it had taken hold. And it was debilitating.
Yeah.
So, I had a discussion with the player. I'm like, you have this.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you have it. I mean, it kind of fits with your idea. You are this particular character, a sorcerer who's like really kind of playing with the edges of magic and doing weird shit that, a studied wizard would be like, that's breaking the rules. And they're like, rules? What are those? But what I let them know, I'm like, if you have the ability to do this thing and absolutely shut down a spellcaster, just know there might be at some point in your career, adventuring, another spellcaster who could shut you down in the same way. And you will never get out of it. And you will just basically lose all of your abilities. It never came to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But I let them know, like, there has to be a balancing moment here, right? And then, it's also not to, specifically punch your character's weak spots. But if you have a villain, particularly beholders, right, that really are so incredibly intelligent, and they are sort of like a meta weird way of like understanding what your specific character's goals, motivations, weaknesses are, it's going to throw things at you that are going to hit those soft spots.
Yeah.
I think that one of the classic memes is like, I have a 26 armor class, and it's like, make a deck save. And it's like, yeah. It's like every character has a tipping point somewhere, right?
A weakness in the armor.
It's a weakness in the armor. If you use, other martial arts metaphors like Tai Chi, it's like, where's their fulcrum point?
Okay.
Where is the point? And it might still be incredibly hard to hit. Right? Mm-hmm. Your job as a DM isn't to bring your players low.
Of course, right? Yeah.
You're here to, craft a story, craft an adventure together, but you want to challenge them.
Exactly.
So give them challenges that maybe they're not built for.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone else in their party is. And that's where they have to help each other.
Wonderful. I guess one of the final questions I'd like to ask you is, you have a party that is maybe split.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, because again, these things happen, and maybe this is my personal situation. Maybe you're just helping me out. This is fair. Bryan helps Juan with some DMing right now, but and hopefully it helps other people too. But with a split party, what is a way that you can handle maybe when a combat encounter happens, and then how that works with people split and not in that combat?
Okay. Yeah.
And just maybe tracking multiple enemies in general also to tack onto that as well. I know that's kind of two separate questions.
Yeah. They are kind of two separate things.
Yeah.
For the split party, when things are happening, you have to make it interesting for the people who are not there. Because when you're in combat, even if it's not combat, when you are locked into the initiative flow, right? Mm-hmm. As soon as you ask someone to roll for initiative, this is another topic. But sometimes I'm like, roll for initiative. I'm like, no, I didn't mean that you should attack everyone. I just wanted to see who went first. And it's like, oh, now everyone's pulled out the guns and commoners are dead everywhere. It's like, I just wanted to see if you could get to the door first, guys.
But you said roll for initiative.
Yes, exactly. It is a common misconception. And again, that's laying it out. But that's all right. So you have a split party, right? The ones who are in the action scene doing it. It's somewhat incumbent upon you to ask the other players. I'm going to say there's multiple ways to go about this. But one, what is happening in the micro moments of that life? Really zoom in. It's because this is all happening in a matter of 6-second increments, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Let's bring it up. Say they're shopping, right?
Yes.
All right. Add some drama. Add some tension. It's I'm looking at this idea. You turn. The shopkeeper says, "Oh, hello. What?" And like someone goes shop, and you turn. It's like you feel your elbow bunch the shelf. And it's like, oh shit! Have them make a dexterity save. Like start bringing some elements of drama and action to their life, or maybe it doesn't have to go into combat, but like let them feel like they're participating in some way, or contrary. Not taking them out of that scene, let them narrate what's happening in the combat scene. Like, let them be NPCs or object environmental conditions or hazards, right?
Yes.
Be like, it's like, okay, and it's good if they know this ahead of time. It's like, just tell them before as the combat starts, be like, okay, I would like you, over the course of this, because we're going to go through like maybe 2 or 3 rounds of combat, to give me environmental hazards that happen on count 10 and count 20, right? Mm-hmm. And just to mix things up, like, and every time we go through this, I want you to make it more dramatic, right? And it could be like the cobblestones suddenly become loose for whatever reason, like the weather suddenly changes, a gust of sand and dust. Everyone's got sand in their eyes. Like, no. Really start dramatic. But this goes back to one of the other things. Give those players agency to shape what's happening to everyone else. And maybe they're going to give some little jabs to their friends and be like, some kid walks by and drops a bag of marbles, and now you all have to deal with that. Have them give some descriptive power in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Huh. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah. I'm going to have to incorporate that on Tuesday. Tuesday at Tank Brewing.
Yes. Come see us at the Tank. Anything else?
Well, Bryan,
there's our alarm.
I'll leave that to you. Is there anything that you would like to tell the world right now? Any final remarks that you would maybe some passing wisdom?
I think the best passing wisdom as a dungeon master, in terms of adjudicating, when everyone's worried about what the creature's stats are, the D20 is your object of chance, right? And knowing those thresholds of success, you can call for a roll for anything. And I know there's a couple of DMs in our community who are like, really use this, the benchmark. 10, it's moderately easy. 15, that's something that's hard. 20, that's pretty hard, right? If you're making those target numbers, like in your mind, and maybe you tweak it up or down a little depending on the situation, like that's so much of what this game is. Like, pick a benchmark of success and then be like, what's relevant in the situation? And sometimes I'll even ask characters, be like, justify in this moment, what skill do you think you need to do X activity? And sometimes they'll be crazy and I'll be like, you can use that skill, but it'll be a 20. And it's okay to tell people the DC ahead of time, especially when you're in a public setting and you're pressed for time. Be like, if you want to use acrobatics for this, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to hit an 18. But if you want to use stealth as a straight skill, I'll give it to you for a 15. Or if you think you can do this with, and this is a whole other subject of like mixing up, what skill and what stat, be like, I want an intelligence persuasion check, because you're using logic to change this.
Persuasion check. How would that work? An intelligence persuasion check. So
you're using your persuasion. This is sort of the Greek. You may not be the most charismatic person in the world, but you are an academic mind. You are a Greek philosopher, right?
You can speak. Yeah.
You are logos, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I am going to use the power of this logos, this logical argument, to sway you. And so you can be like, I want an intelligence persuasion check. So you can switch those up. Mm-hmm. And then that can always affect the DC. And because you're doing one of the more interesting ones, maybe you lower it. And be like, if you can do this with intelligence instead of your normal charisma, which you're amazing at, but if you can do it with intelligence, 12.
And you actually phrase that to the player that way.
Do.
So you give them that.
I give them that. Yeah, it's giving people agency and choice.
So, but like if you were logged in on, like if you were using D&D Beyond and stuff like that, or What number? Like, how would they look to find out what the modifier
That's
is?
the manual. The two numbers you need to know are what is your skill bonus, right? Specifically
for the persuasion intelligence check.
But it's the skill. The statistic: strength, dex, con, int, whiz, charisma. Right.
Your ability modifier.
Yeah, your ability modifier.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Your ability modifier and your proficiency bonus. Those two things come into play. So if I'm asking you to use, say you're proficient in investigation, right? But your charisma, and I'm asking you to use a charisma investigation. What is charisma investigation? That's what I would call streetwise. That's learning something from the people, right?
I like that. Yeah.
I'm using my investigation to learn something from, like, say a bar, right? I'm trying to gather information.
Yeah.
That's a perfect investigation, but using charisma instead of intelligence.
But as a player, I'm trying to like kind of hash it out as like a player that doesn't know a lot, right? So if you're saying a charisma investigation, how would I know on my sheet what my modifier would be?
So, first question: what is your skill? Since we're using charisma investigation, you look at your charisma modifier. Say it's a +2.
Right.
Great. Now, you would want to also see on your skill, is the little bubble next to investigation filled in, meaning you're proficient in it? If yes, then you add your proficiency bonus.
Which might be 2, 3.
And if no, which is, it starts out at 2 and then goes up gradually over time, right? It doesn't go up that fast. Yeah. And so then it's a matter of, am I basically just using charisma, my +2 on my roll, or am I using a +2 plus a +3 charisma bonus, which makes it a +5? Which would be the same, effectively, if you were using the base skill and you were proficient.
Of just investigation itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great because,
you're just swapping the modifier of the skill.
Right.
A lot of charisma-based classes use intellect as a dump stat.
Yeah.
I noticed that quite often. So then, you could never investigate because I'm just going to be... I have a -1 to my roll every time.
Right. Yeah. And so this is a perfect opportunity to give those like high charisma characters an investigation opportunity. It's like gather information in a crowded room, in a marketplace, in a ball where there's people speaking intrigue. Like, this is your opportunity to use investigation. Your intelligence is terrible. You're never going to logic it out, but you're going to gather information by talking to people.
That's amazing. That is so ingenious, and I need to start incorporating that like ASAP. ASAP, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. My gosh, that's great. DMs out there. This guy knows his stuff.
Mix your skills and your stats. It's perfectly legal. You can do it.
My gosh. Well, Bryan, it has been wonderful talking with you. This has been another just incredible episode of TPK Talks. I'm your interviewer, Juan Voice of Many, Juan Voice, here with...
B. Rye, Bryan D. Harrison, B. Danger, all the things.
With TPK.Miami, coming at you live on our YouTube channel, and hope you can tune in for more. We definitely have more in store.
We'll see you soon. Again, Instagram, TPK.Miami, and TPK TV on YouTube.
Yep, you heard it here.